What's up, YouTubulous? Back. Check out this rare gem. Literally, this is a barn find. You don't get them very often, but this thing has sat in a barn for, God, what did he say, 4.5 years? Look at these. You know, they're still gonna have surface. I mean, it is what it is. Look at this color. Super rare. It's a limited, so it was picked. And it was actually, you know, when you buy a limited, you say, hey, I want this color, I want this interior, I want this package, wood grain. So it's got wood grain package. It's got leather interior. It literally smells like it's been sitting in a barn for 4 years. Then there's the seat dried out and cracked because it didn't get used. But what I haven't done, I bought an extra quart of oil on the way home yesterday because, hey, there's some more. Because I didn't really trust it. He got some windshield wipers. What is that? Oh, that's the stock exhaust strap, ain't it? 2 of them. Those are gonna come in handy. Be keeping those. But there she is. So it's got that, and then it's one of the ones that has it underneath the back glass. But for the most part, it's clean. It's rare. He lived way back on a dirt road. Yeah, a couple miles down a dirt road. We found it online, and it was almost too good to be true. I offered him $1,000 over Messenger, and he said, yeah, like a week ago. And then I never ended up making it. I got busy, we did something, so I never made it. So then messaged him again yesterday, went out and got it. It was an hour and 10-minute drive, both ways. But I couldn't pass it up. It was just haunting me. I wanted this thing. So we went and picked it up, and I handed him $1,000 because I said, you know, I'll take it. It starts, the motor sounds amazing. And he's like, wait, it's $1,700. I said, well, you told me you'd take $1,000 already, so that's why I came. He's like, I don't believe so. I said, you can go back through the messages, you know, and if you don't want to, fine, it's cool, you know, we just wasted 2 hours of our time. And so he scrolled back through, and he's like, I did tell you that. All right, he said that's before he put the alternator on it. I guess this week, he fired it up, the alternator froze up, the belt came off, so he put an alternator on it. He ended up giving it to me for $1,000. You know, that's all I had was $1,050 on me. I brought money for gas, money for the Jeep. I don't travel with any more cash than I need. So, but listen to this thing fire up. I mean, that motor sounds tight. But what we have is, if you look, it's got 161,640 on there. I can't see, yeah. So let's turn this up before I get banned from YouTube. All right, oil pressure gauge. Now let's see what it does. I give it gas. Okay, so it runs at right there until it gets hot. He put a new thermostat in it. It's 180 degree one, so it stays under 210, which is, you know, whatever. It doesn't overheat. That's all I care about. But when you're driving and it's warmed up and you stop at a stop sign, the gauge will just fall to 0. So what I'm wondering is, because I'm going to dig into this, I have to, wouldn't the oil pump better when the oil's warm? How do I have 40 to 50 psi when the oil's cold and thick, and not as much pressure when it's hot and liquidy? It should pump it a lot better. So I have to track down, maybe it's the oil pressure sensor, or if it's oil pump, we got to pull this oil pan and put an oil pump in, and that's a whole process in itself. You got to prime it, you got to do, I've done one before, so if we got to take a day and do that, we will. But we don't want to buy an oil pump unless we need it. It's the limited, it's got all this. Up on the roof, the headliner looks somewhat good. That back seat kind of sucks, but it's a rare color, it's a limited, it drives absolutely amazing. It's only got 161k original miles. So we're going to pull this thing in the garage. We're gonna go over this oil pump. I kind of just want to warm it up and see what it does. When I was driving it home, we hit an accident yesterday, and the highway stopped. He told me, he didn't lie, he didn't hide anything. He said he thinks something's wrong with the oil pressure sensor. He honestly thinks it's the sensor because it never did anything. You can hear the motor sounds pristine. But I stopped and it went down to 0, so I was like, holy crap. I put her down in first gear when we were rolling at 15 and just let her wind up, and the oil pressure gauge comes right back up. That's what leads me to believe it might be an oil pump, because the gauge responds to the RPMs of the engine. So we're running up to the store right now. I'm gonna buy an oil pump and a oil pan gasket. I'm gonna drop that pan tonight, which it's not a horrible job, but it's not a fun job either. We're gonna get that off there, and I'm going to check and see. What I'm guessing is, by the looks of the oil, he never changes it. Jeez, I think the pickup tube might be dirty. Honestly, nothing to it but to do it. So I'm gonna get up there, get these parts. That way, at least I have them. So if it takes me a while, I'm not coming out of this garage until that's in. I don't care if it's 1 in the dang morning. I need this Jeep fixed because I need to sell it. So we'll tidy this area up. I'll pull this Jeep in, and we'll get to work. See what it is to put an oil pan on a Jeep. I made it back, got my parts, got my garage somewhat straightened. So here's my oil pump, my pickup tube, oil pan gasket, and then I got wipers for the van. Check out what I found inside the console of this though. He's got his own Harbor Freight. Is that a 10? No, it's a 13. That's a nice ratchet, little mini. Those are nice to have. So I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna get it up on jack stands just so I can move around underneath there a little better. Britt, what's your first thoughts on how this thing smells inside?
I literally started gagging, you guys. He's been talking about it all day long, and I'm like, it's fine, I'll just clean it, I'll get the smell out, it's fine. And I just got in here, I opened the door, and I walked away and was gagging.
You said you'd get it out, now you gotta do it.
I'll get it out, but it's gonna be tough to get through like the first 10-15 minutes because it's the worst thing I've ever encountered in my life.
But isn't it just an awesome color?
That's why I liked it, because the color is so just like unique. I love it.
Yeah, it's pretty freaking sweet.
We have not had one that's this color yet. So.
It's a super clean Jeep.
Yeah.
And look at the bottom of this thing.
Crap.
And it's got new Michelins on it, on stock Jeep wheels. So guess what I'm doing? I'm putting Steel's wheels on here and sending it down the road, and I'm taking these ones that are painted black with new Michelins on them and putting them on his.
There's his winter tires, yeah.
Bada boom, bada bing. That's how you get free winter tires. Right there, guys. Oh, alright, let's get this thing up. Alright, we let it heat up till it had about 10 pounds of pressure. I had Cam get in there, give it gas, bring that pressure back up. You could see down in this hole, fluids just, you see that it had pressure. Once it goes down, we're definitely losing oil pressure. So that's no bueno. So we definitely got to get in there, take this oil pan off. I just did not want to do it until I saw that it didn't have oil pressure up top. So here we go. There's that leaky hose clamp. You see the yellow wing? You never get that tight enough with your hands to, stop pressure. So, but here's the oil pan. Here's all the bolts we got to get off all the way around. Just sucks because it's a new gasket. So I know someone was in here. I just wonder if they were trying to solve this issue. And of course my recycle jug would be full. We're getting the pan empty. And we're gonna start dropping that thing. Well, if any of you have ever tried changing a Jeep XJ oil pan, and you've gotten to this point, I know you were like, well, what the hell do I do now? I just proved that you don't need to take the starter out. It does go right by the starter. I didn't even have to fight it to get it past the starter, but you can see we're hitting the edge of the tranny here. We're up into the tranny there, so this axle's definitely got to come down. So what I'm going to do now is look at these sway bar links, see if I can't take them off and see how low these shocks will drop down. I do not want to unbolt my shocks, but I will if I have to, I guess. We just got to get this axle down. See, it's hitting here. It's actually not. The axle's actually got to go forward because it's hitting right here on this edge. I still have 2-3 inches. I don't know if you can see up in there, but so I don't know. It's hitting everything. So there's not much light down here, but we're getting it. I'll show you what it looks like when it comes out. I did peek up in there, and whoever owned this Jeep before, God, I swear they maybe changed their oil 3 times in 161,000 miles. It's bad up in there. My guess is that pickup tube is clogged, the pump's clogged. There's just not much getting through it. Taking this tire off, I got all these lug nuts, and then we've got this one. It's got a lock key, so I'm looking through the Jeep for a lock key. You know there isn't one in there. There never is. So look in the back. Got a full-size, brand new looking spare. So I think I'm probably going to steal that. And still no lock key. So I need to figure out how to get something on that and break that loose. Always something though, isn't there? Alright, pulled my upper shock mount off, which is this. Goes down the hole. This is kind of just your little lock nut deal. Nut stuck in that socket. I'm not even trying to mess with it right now. Look at. So I've got play. 20 minutes later, still fighting. The beauty for you guys is it's only 1 second. So took off my sway bar. Mounts up there and up there. Took the nut all the way off the shock over here. There's my rubber piece. Now we've got a bouncy front end. Let's see if you can get it. Now, in theory, that should be enough to get that out. So now I'm gonna get underneath here. I'm gonna try to fight this. Wiggle this pan out. Sorry I can't show you guys, but it's a battle. I only got 2 hands. Alright, so I had Britt come over here and just bounce on this tire. And I just kind of pulled on it as she did it, and it popped right out. So
just a little help is all.
That's it. So here we are. This is the inside of our oil pan. She's I mean, it's got some seriously. Look at that. It's thick. It's got good viscosity. It really does. Now this is all stuff I think that just dropped off the motor. But look at this. Like moisture bubbles. If you can see it. He said, you know, it sat in a pole barn. There was a lot of moisture in there. And you can tell by just looking at this rust right here. It looks like it's been sitting out in a field. This is the kind of rust that you can see on vehicles that have sat for a year. It's different than rust as, you know, one's been driven. This rust right here will completely eat something alive. Driving them is better than not driving them, but we got it. Let me see if I can't give you a good shot of my crank and my pistons and my rods and my bearings. And there's my pickup tube. Exactly what I suspected. Look how clogged that is. So I'm glad I went the $102 way. It comes with an oil pump and a pickup tube. See, there's my oil pump right there with the 4 bolts. So we're gonna unbolt that. We're gonna put a new pickup tube on. Well, look at this. Look at that black. That's sludge. That's not changing your oil. This is what happens, people, if you go 5,000 miles between oil changes. You're supposed to go 3. It was always made at 3. I can't believe this thing's not chattering or knocking yet. Gosh, look at that. You can even see the cam right there. Check out my cam lobes. You can see everything. So I'm going to go through this, inspect everything. But literally, if you had chattery rod bearings, you could literally come down here just like this and change your bearings. It's not an easy job by any means, but if you wanted to change your bearings, you could do it right now. There's my rod. There's my piston up in there. There's my wrist pin. So that's the cylinder. There's my rods. And there's my bearings. There's your bearing caps. So there's my bearing cap. Rod goes up in there. See the piston up in there? You could literally rebuild this from the bottom if you really, really, really wanted to. Look at that buildup on there. Right on the crank. That's pathetic. So yeah, we need to get in here, clean this thing out. She needs love.
I just over here scrubbing carpet.
Alright, let's unbox this. I want to look at this so I have a better understanding as to how that one comes out. Here's my pickup screen. Is it in a sealed package? Wow, nice. Alright, here's my oil pump. There's my gasket. Let's see what we got here. I wonder if this is a this ain't a reman. Better not be for $102. Come on, baby. So we've got different bolts on the bottom. Right there, you see that? That's how you prime it. I'm gonna have to cut one of my big screwdrivers, and you take that, I don't even know if it's a crank position sensor, something position sensor, but it turns in that hole, and that's what drives that oil pump. So you have to actually put a screwdriver in there that's in a drill, spin this fast, and it'll prime that pump before you actually start your vehicle, because you won't be getting any oil for the first, I don't know, however long. You have to prime it. So 2 bolts. That's it. Well, I guess I get in there and start taking bolts off. It's got good weight to it. That's a pretty heavy part. The last oil, I did mine on a 97. It was a lot different. This is a 2000, so I guess they changed every year. Alright, let's get busy. So it is literally 2 bolts. This one here and that one there. Only 17 foot-pounds too. So I literally cracked it and they're that loose. So I'm going to drop this down and we'll inspect it. See how bad this pickup tube is. I'm suspecting that that's pretty darn clogged. Now I took this cover off. This was right here. Look at this. Look what that was trying to suck up. So that's what happened, is this stuff starts moving around when the oil thins out, because the oil's moving. I mean, it's just grimy and gritty. Alright, class. If you want something to run forever, should your pickup screen look like that, there's nothing getting through right here. And that's where that cover was. It was from here back. So it all built up on this wall. My goodness. So I'm going to pry that screen out of there and see what it looks like past that. My camera's getting trashed right now. So black, you can't tell. Yeah, it's just piled up. You can almost see through the screen. Holy cow. Look at that at the bottom of the oil pan. Man, I think I just saved this motor. Holy cow. How do you let it get that bad with 161,000?
I don't know, it doesn't make sense.
That, or I should take the damn odometer out and see if the VIN matches, because that looks like 280,000 miles. But it runs and drives like 161.
Right.
I mean, the motor
Like
sounds good.
Like the rockers and the doors and the fenders, they look like 160,000. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's just
it really does
mind-blowing.
sound like it. It's just been neglected.
It's just,
Whoever owned this never changed their oil. Ever.
well, even like it didn't help that it sat like
For
in a
years.
barn.
I wonder if oil gets chunky after it sits for years. So,
It's just
I don't know.
weird. Just,
Yeah,
it's
it is
crazy.
weird. It's not going to be fun getting that gasket up in there with the pan. I know that much. But as soon as we get, say, 4 or 5 bolts in, we're golden. They're so short, though, that you have to almost push up on the pan and get them hand started. We'll get them all hand started, snug, and then I'll start my pattern. Go tight, 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 and then work our way. And then hopefully she don't leak, but I got some serious cleaning to do. Let me see if I can get this.
You have no idea.
Ugh. Look at that. You don't want that sand ball going through your motor. That's for sure. Alright, enough talking. I gotta get this thing done so I can drive it tomorrow. You've seen it come apart. Now you should know how it goes together. I'll show you the priming process. I gotta get my tube hooked to that, get that back in. But for now, I'm gonna spend a good amount of time up in there with some clean rags and just wipe everything clean. This is what drives the oil pump. So you can see that end right there. Literally goes down in there like so. Fits right in that groove. That's how it drives it. You want to check this gear. That looks good. So we're going to clean that up too. But you can't stick that oil pump up in there unless you take this out, because if this isn't lined up, there's no way to turn that pump motor to make it line up. So you put the oil pump in, you got to prime it anyway, so take this out. Makes sense to clean it up anyway. Does anybody know the true name of this? Something, sensor, whatever. I don't know. But I know that if this thing isn't in the hole, lined up the way it was, the Jeep will be off time and it won't start right. So, that I do know. Learned that the hard way. Look at that. That's pretty much what this screen's supposed to look like. I can't even believe it was that bad. She should have a lot of oil pressure now. I'm hoping for 60 all the time. I've brake cleaned out the whole inside of this thing, up under this lip. I've gotten it as clean as I can possibly get it. So, I'm ready to throw it back in. I'd like to try to put this thing back in tonight while I'm on a roll. I mean, I'm out here, I'm moving along, so. Are these for screwing it up in there and holding it? Holy smokes. That makes life easy. So that's what I was worried about, is trying to line up my gasket with all my holes and put it up in there. Well, that's what them are for. What do you know? That's what we've got now. I've cleaned up pretty much everything I can get my hands on. There's a lot of stuff up in there I don't want to touch because it's stuck to the sidewalls. It was running good before, so I'm going to leave it at that. It's going to be cleaner. It's got a clean oil pan, a clean oil pump, you know, and a couple good oil changes. This thing should be cleaned right out for the most part. But I've got that up in there. I've got the whatever thing pulled out of the top. So we're pretty much ready just to try to slide this pan up in here. I'm going to put them snap-ups on, see how that works. Man, Felpro has come a long way. Got the easy clips in the 4 corners where the bigger bolts, I think they're 13s. There, and then down there. Literally, you just slide your gasket up and it clicks into place, and then you slide your pan up and it clicks into place. You get all your bolts started, and then you just screw them out and put your bolts in. It's freaking genius, actually. That gasket's perfectly sitting where it needs to sit right now. The last time I did that, you had to put goop right here in the corners and goop over there, and put your gasket on your pan. Fight your pan up in here as hard as it is, and hope all your holes line. It was a freaking nightmare. This was the most scary part for me. Man, I'm actually super impressed. It's sitting right where it needs to go. I'm literally gonna put the pan up there, snap it into place on those clips, and then bolt it on. That easy. Next day, we worked till about midnight last night. I got the pan in, all the bolts in, but one of these dang things, it's stuck. I only put it in like 3 threads, just like these ones. So, and it's the worst one. It's way up in there. That one of all of them. She's stuck. And I get my flathead in there and it just twists it until it pops out. So there's really no good way to get pliers on that thing or anything. So we're fighting that right now. But once I get that, we'll prime this oil pump and see how we did. Gotta remember to make sure I tighten that bolt. But all the bolts are in all the way around. We got them. They're all nice and snug. So it's really literally down to that last bolt right there. Alright, I ended up getting it out. What I did is I used my long needle noses and I just basically stuck it through there so that it couldn't come out, and just spun it out. So definitely don't screw these things in tight. I didn't. You can see how far I went. But still, genius idea. I've got a mess out here. So oil pan is in, drain plug is tight. I'm gonna pull that oil filter. I gotta get my front end button back up, jack my axle up. I've got both my shocks undone down inside the holes there. So we gotta get that. I'm gonna get oil in this thing, and then we're going to prime that oil pump. I want to take this oil filter off, and I actually want to clean that before I go dumping anything, because we've got 90% of the contaminants out of this motor, you know, and out of that pan. So I want to make sure that it's all clean oil from here on out. And I think we just saved this Jeep, honestly. I'd use something like this in a drill, but my luck, the tip will fall off inside the motor. And we'll be pulling the oil pan again. So not doing that. I'm just gonna end up chopping up one of my screwdrivers. I've got a bunch of old ones that I don't use. All right, we've got our driver. That goes down in that hole. And then I don't have 4 hands, so I don't know how well you're gonna be able to see this. All right, after much cussing, swearing, bleeding, we finally got the bit down in the oil pump. I didn't have a long enough screwdriver to be able to hold my drill up here, so I had to pull my AC lines, which it did have Freon in it, not much, but it did. So now we are ready to prime our oil pump. The moment of truth. All right, we got it primed. I've got my flux capacitor back in there on the right angle so that the Jeep starts right. I got my oil pressure sensor that was taken out, clean. I got inside the oil filter housing, cleaned all that. There was a little gunk in there, new oil filter. We got it primed. I don't know how good you could see down there, but it is primed. Now for the scary part. We start it and see what it does. Let me look over everything over and then we'll start this thing up, see what we got. How's it going in here, Britt?
It's good. Look at that.
It looks
okay,
nice.
This door, like, not even gonna lie, you guys, this was literally just black. This and this was pure black.
When they ordered this, they were like, I want door panels the same color as my skin.
Like, what does that guy say? A prosthetic penis color.
Yep. It's the same color as a prosthetic penis.
Yeah, it is.
It's freaking awesome with wood grain.
But Seriously though, no.
Gosh, that's the only downfall right there.
That rip.
But it's so nice and clean in here. Holy cow.
Now I'm going through and detailing it.
I need to not touch anything. I think I just did that.
Don't touch
Sorry.
anything.
Whoops. But she's in here kicking butt. I'm out here cussing and swearing and she just lets me.
I just sit here and laugh.
I could not get that frickin' screw gun and that flathead down in there to save my life. And then when I pulled the hose off the AC compressor, it was like, it just exploded kinda.
Yeah,
like,
did
all
you
right.
show everybody
Nice.
your face?
Oh yeah.
I had to
Dropped my big ratchet on my face. I had to put the starter back in because to put the pan back in, you do want to take the starter out because it's just easier.
Right.
Because I had those little blue tabs and with the starter in, you had to go on an angle. You couldn't get it over those long tabs. So I ended up pulling that while I was putting the starter back in. Ratchet slipped off and it, like, you know, 50% of my strength on it slipped off, flipped out of my hand and nailed me right in the eye.
I had to go up to the school because one of our kids fell in the mud. Classic. Anyways, I get back and I'm talking to him and he's like, is my eye swollen? I'm like, what did you do? His whole like cheekbone is like golf ball.
Yeah. Yeah, this is where we're at.
We're getting there.
All right, Brett.
I got started?
Hit the key. This is the big gauge right here. This is the one we want to watch.
Okay.
It's probably dead from leaving the lights on.
Well, how come I could move the seat then?
I don't know. Try it. Is it dead?
Yeah.
All right, let me get a charger on this thing. While that's charging, what are your suggestions to get this lock off here? I tried beating a socket on the other side. Each tire's got one lock. And I'm taking these tires for Steele's Jeep. They're like brand new. They're the same wheel, so. And I think this one will look better without painted wheels on it. It'll clean it right up.
It'll make it look more stock.
More stocky, yeah. All right, now let's try to start it.
Let's see.
Watch that gauge, let me know where it's at. All right, the procedure for what I now know as the cam position sensor. That's the real name for this thing. This thing has to go in just right. See how I've got my little pin in there? That's lined up. Now, engine has to be at TDC, which is top dead center. See if I can get this bracket for you. You see that 0? Right there, boom. You see that little notch on my pulley? That's right underneath it. There's a notch on there. I'm right at TDC. But I'm not sure if I'm at the compression stroke or not. So we're about to see. So we're at top dead center there. We've got this pin in here. Now this gets installed facing perfect rear of the vehicle, which I marked it when it came out, but I also spun it once I got out to feel how this thing spins, if it was good or bad. So yeah, that happened. That's why when you try to start it, it will not start, or it'll cough. It's because the timing's off. This talks to your crank sensor and everything talks to each other. So what I did is I just spun this slowly until my 2 holes lined up. Now it's locked together. And you'll know because it won't spin in either direction. That's a half moon shape inside there. So if you're spinning it and this Allen wrench shoots in and you can still spin this a half turn, you're not in that small hole. So pull it back out, just keep a little pressure on it, spin it slowly until it falls into the hole. And then boom, you're lined up. So I'm gonna get this in, see if she starts. So let me tell you my afternoon. We got it together and it would not start at all. So I figured, all right, I put the cam position sensor out of phase, you know? So I went to top dead center, put it in, nothing, rolls over, nothing. 180 it, nothing. I did that probably 100 times. I took the whole coil pack out, took the plug out, brought it up to top dead center so I could feel it, make sure the line on the pulley is lining up with the pulley, and it was nothing. That right there goes on top of that. You can see that one's new. Well, when those are bad, they don't run. And when you take everything apart and you put it all back together, you expect it to run and it doesn't. This is the last thing in your head that you think it is. You think it's a wire that you forgot to plug in, a ground wire. You think it's anything but this. Or you think it's this and you just put it in wrong, on the wrong angle. Finally, I came to the conclusion that, you know what, it's got to be this sensor. This sensor's got to be dead. And sure enough, I went and I picked it up and I put it in, and it started on the first stroke, but it was 180 out because you got to get it on the compression stroke. So there's a compression stroke and then there's a, vacuum stroke. So I had it on the wrong stroke, stuck my pin in it, rotated the pulley one more time, and then stuck it back down, and now it starts. It's got 60 pounds of oil pressure, thank God. So let me get my light, see if we can't see down in here. Sounds good. We got oil traveling across the top. So, we got oil. Now I got to put my fan back in because I was down in there. I took this fan out so I could turn the crank pulley and look at the notches on the side of the block. Finally. That was about 3 hours right there.
Just a little bit.
Britt was starting to question my mechanic abilities.
I started to question the Jeep.
So, there's our oil pressure. So let's run it till it gets warm. See what it does. It sounds a lot better too.
Yeah, way better.
Man, I was starting to think I broke something. But when you get it back together and it just rolls over with no want to start at all,
You immediately
you start thinking the worst about everything, like, oh God. So, we got oil pressure. We got more than we had before. That belt needs to be tightened a little bit. Which, that's easy on these. That's that bolt right there. I also have a bunch of oil and lube on this belt. You can see it. Just from messing with it, turning it, playing with it. She's alive. You can see I just got it started because my ratchet's still on the bolt. That tightens that down. Make sure I did tighten that, huh? Yeah, I did. I'll let it run, let it get nice and hot, see what it does. Britt's kicking butt on this interior. Look at this thing, it's like new.
I even conditioned the seats.
Huh?
I said I even conditioned the seats.
Looks good, they feel good, nice and soft and moist.
Yeah.
That sucks. What do you do about that? You know what I mean? We could get a seat cover, but everybody looks under the seat cover. They know it's on there for a reason.
And I can't stitch, let alone stitch leather in a Jeep we're trying to sell. So that's not an option.
Looks like they're getting a ripped back seat.
Well, you know what? The whole rest of the Jeep is
It's pretty on point.
So
It's on a dirt road, so once it's clean, I think we're really gonna.
I'm excited to give it a bath and see what
We're gonna
it really
see how
looks
clean
like.
this thing really is, because
It's
I
covered.
mean, it's nice. Still shiny. I still gotta figure out how to get them dang wheels off. I ain't been focused on that either. Got them, finally. So Steele's got awesome set of winter tires. Look at that thing. See? It needed a cleaner look. There we go. All right, she moved on her own feet. These tires are a wee bit big, when you turn sharp they rub, but you know, whatever. So it's getting dark out. We'll have to show you more tomorrow. Just look at this garage. This poor thing. He had a pond, and he was talking about how he killed his last Wrangler driving it in his pond. It's 6 feet deep. I'm gonna go ahead and assume he was driving this Jeep through the pond too. So that poor girl just got beat her whole life. But she's back now. Good oil pressure, runs and sounds great. Tomorrow, I've got to try to find a wheel for that F250. I looked again today, went to the junkyard, and they did not have any. I saw one there. Somebody must have taken it. There was a set of 3. They're gone now, so I should have grabbed them when I saw them. I didn't. It's my fault. But we got an oil pump in that. What a task. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't learn anything, at least learn from my mistakes. Because that took me last night till midnight and then all day today. Well, I got 3 or 4 hours in just trying to figure out why it wouldn't start with a bad sensor that I didn't know was bad. So it is what it is. You live and you learn. Never would have thought that sensor would break just by taking it out. It, you know, didn't happen before. That's just one of them things, you know, it's old, you play with it, it crumbles, and you put it back together, and then you don't know what's wrong because, well, it worked before. I ended up getting a nice set of tires for Steele's Jeep, so he's got tires for the winter. That makes me happy, more comfortable. We're getting rid of these ones that were stacked in my garage. This Jeep's just about ready. We got to wash it, do a couple more little things. I want to figure out like headlights, possibly. There may be a short in this front left headlight. Let me show you real quick. That's what I got. And when I hit my blinkers, it doesn't blink, it just goes solid. So, just empty every pocket. I know you know something about a Jeep or two. What do you think that is? Which light would you say is shorted? This blinker's not on, this one is on, that light's dim. I'd say that light was shorted. So, blinkers are solid, that light's dim. Don't know. But I'm tired. I'm going in. I'm going to clean this garage up tomorrow. We're going to work on something else. And I'm sure you guys will get to see it. Thank you for watching the channel. Thanks for all your support. You guys are amazing. Thanks for all the great comments. All the new subscribers, what's up? Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't hit the bell, maybe hit the bell. See how much money we make off this. Peace.